Good evening, I hope you had a fantastic Saturday. Once again, London witnessed massive protests, and once more, the Palestinian flag was visible to everyone. I've mentioned before how the political climate of other nations has become quite prominent on our streets. However, I must admit what surprised me in many ways was seeing demonstrators like LGBT Jews for a free Palestine. It made me wonder if those advocating for LGBTQ rights genuinely understand what happens in Gaza and in many neighboring countries. It seems akin to a bird praying for Christmas. Speaking of prayer, on Saturday night in Whitehall, near 10 Downing Street, we saw a different kind of scene. Part of our national monument, dedicated to the victims of the two world wars, was used as the backdrop for a public prayer. It was something I never thought I would see in my own country. Nigel Farage has issued a stark warning that the growing frequency of demonstrations with foreign affiliations signals a change in Britain's political and cultural landscape, challenging the unity of the nation. For Farage, these shows of support for causes like Palestinian nationalism not only muddle the UK's foreign policy stance but also raise important questions about conflicting allegiances within the country. He argues that this goes to the heart of Britain's identity as a multicultural society, where shared values are under increasing pressure. Farage criticizes decades of immigration policies that, in his view, allowed communities from vastly different cultural backgrounds to settle in the UK without prioritizing integration. The result, he believes, is the rise of distinct subcultures that run counter to British society, creating division and, at times, hostility towards national values. Religious customs, such as the Islamic call to prayer, are becoming a part of these protests, and Farage claims that this highlights diverging norms that can feel contentious or exclusionary in a country with predominantly Christian or secular traditions in public spaces. He questions whether these displays challenge the balance between religious freedom and maintaining a unified public identity. Farage argues that Britain needs to rethink its approach if it wants to preserve a shared sense of national identity amid rising cultural divides. On a different note, a recent protest saw a remarkable exchange as Katie Hopkins posed a provocative question: if Islam is so wonderful, why are you living in a Christian country? This sharp comment touches on the concerns surrounding Britain's evolving identity. Hopkins suggests that living in a predominantly Christian nation while adhering to Islamic beliefs may create a conflict of loyalties, challenging the integration into British cultural norms. For Hopkins, the growing visibility of Islamic customs raises fears about the dilution of Britain's traditional identity. Her views spark a broader debate about national identity and how much a diverse society can truly adapt while maintaining its core values. Supporters of Hopkins argue that visible religious diversity challenges established norms, while critics see her stance as exclusionary, questioning the right of Muslims to live freely in the UK. Hopkins implies that Islamic religious expressions need to reconcile with the secular or Christian heritage of the country, feeding into a deeper discussion about freedom of speech and religious liberties. Advocates of multiculturalism argue that democratic principles require accommodations for all viewpoints, but her critics suggest that Hopkins undermines the very multicultural values Britain claims to uphold. Her direct questioning resonates with those who feel Britain's identity is being overshadowed by newer cultural influences, but her confrontational tone risks deepening divisions rather than fostering healthy dialogue. The participation of prominent figures like Hamza Yousaf in these marches, alongside individuals holding inflammatory placards, has raised important questions. His involvement in protests, which featured radical slogans, has been seen as either a lapse in judgment or a reflection of a deeper ideological commitment. Leaders attending these events must be careful not to endorse hateful rhetoric, even inadvertently. Farage has also pointed out that these recent protests in London were not peaceful gatherings, but outright celebrations of Hamas. He argued that these were not demonstrations for Palestinian rights, but festive support for a violent group. By framing them this way, Farage is shifting the focus from the right to protest to what he sees as an endorsement of a dangerous ideology. This portrayal simplifies the complex motivations of the protesters, assuming they are all united in their support of Hamas, which risks ignoring the diversity of voices calling for justice or peace. Farage's narrative seeks to inflame public debate by suggesting that British protesters are aligning with radical causes. The emotional intensity surrounding the Israel-Palestine conflict was evident in central London, where pro-Israel and pro-Palestine demonstrators clashed. Each side, driven by deeply held beliefs, transformed the scene into a powder keg of tension. The police were left with the difficult task of maintaining order, balancing the right to free speech with the need for crowd control. Public trust in the police can be easily eroded if allegations of bias arise, and navigating these protests fairly is crucial for maintaining order in a multicultural society. Ensuring fairness and clarity will be key to upholding public confidence and managing these complex issues going forward. Thank you for watching. We appreciate hearing your thoughts, so please share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with our latest videos. And if you'd like to join the conversation, find the link to our free Telegram group in the description.